The woods were silent. Too silent. Leaves crunched underfoot, each step a lonely echo. Chris loved these woods, their stillness usually a comfort. Not today. The air hung heavy, thick with something unseen. A crow shrieked, the sound sharp, piercing. Chris shivered, pulling his jacket tighter. He continued walking, a knot of unease tightening in his stomach. Chris had come to clear his head, escape the city's noise. His wife, Sarah, was away. He missed her laugh, her touch. He imagined her smile, the way her eyes crinkled at the corners. The thought brought a flicker of warmth, a brief reprieve from the growing chill in the air. A rustle in the undergrowth. Chris stopped, listening. His heart pounded against his ribs. Just a squirrel. He exhaled, trying to slow his breathing. He wanted to turn back, but something kept him rooted to the spot. A flicker of movement, a flash of color in the distance. Was someone there? He squinted, trying to make out the figure through the trees. It looked like Sarah? His heart leaped. Sarah? He called out, his voice hoarse. The figure turned, and Chris felt a surge of relief. It was her. She was wearing his favorite sundress, the one she wore on their first date. "What are you doing here?" he asked, moving closer. She didn't answer, just stood there, a small smile playing on her lips. "Sarah?" he called again, his unease returning. Why wasn't she coming closer? He took another step and the figure vanished. Chris froze, his blood turning to ice. He called for her again, but his voice was swallowed by the trees. Doubt gnawed at him. Had he imagined it? Was the isolation playing tricks on his mind? He turned to leave, his pace quickening. A twig snapped behind him. He whirled around, a scream caught in his throat. There, standing in the middle of the path, was the figure again. Closer now. He could see her face clearly. It was Sarah, but different. Her eyes were wrong, cold and empty. A whisper, barely audible, slithered through the trees. Chris. His name, spoken in Sarah's voice, but twisted, menacing. Fear, raw and primal, surged through him. He stumbled back, his foot catching on a root. He fell, the breath knocked out of him. Scrambling to his feet, he ran. He didn't look back. The whisper followed, echoing around him, growing louder. "Chris, don't leave me. Chris!" The woods seemed to press in, the trees reaching for him with gnarled skeletal fingers. He burst into a clearing, gasping for breath. In the center stood his house, a place of warmth and light, a sanctuary. But as he approached, he saw it was wrong. The windows were dark, the curtains drawn. An oppressive silence hung over it, suffocating him. He reached the front door, his hand trembling as he pushed it open. The house was empty, devoid of furniture, of life. The only sound was the echo of his own breathing. He called out for Sarah, but his voice bounced back at him, hollow and distorted. He was trapped in a nightmare. He spun around, searching for an escape, a way out of this madness, and then he saw her. Standing at the end of the hallway, bathed in shadow, was Sarah. She was smiling, but her eyes held a chilling emptiness. "You came back," she whispered, her voice a grotesque parody of his beloved wife. "We can be together now, forever." He backed away, his eyes darting around the empty house, searching for a weapon, anything. He tripped, crashing to the floor. Looking up, he saw his reflection in the dusty hardwood. But it wasn't his face staring back at him. It was her face. The distorted, horrifying visage of the creature wearing Sarah's skin. The mimic. And then everything went black.